Welcome to the diseases of the circulatory system for ICD-9, and I'm just going to give you a few highlights, just point out some things that you're going to see different for ICD-10-CM. So the circulatory system is classified in Chapter 7, and in ICD-10 it's actually classified in Chapter 9. So here's categories for hypertension that we're going to review on the next few slides. So hypertension is usually a chronic condition, and it's often identified by a systolic blood pressure, so that top number that is above 140, and or a diastolic blood pressure, that bottom number above 90. The physician, though, must document hypertension. The coder cannot assume the diagnosis of hypertension just from an elevated blood pressure. If there's only documentation of elevated blood pressure, then the coder would just code this elevated blood pressure of 796.2. So there's three types of hypertension, and malignant is rare, and it's usually accompanied by papilledemia, and it's often associated with heart and kidney failure. But again, just because the coder sees those clinical indicators in there, the physician would have to document malignant in order for the coder to choose 401.0. Benign is a more common, and you'll notice though the physician really never documents benign, but once in a while you can see it in the documentation. And benign is typically brought under control with medication and diet. Usually what we see, probably 90% of the time, coders are using the unspecified, the 401.9. And because usually the physician will not document or identify if it's benign or malignant, and that's okay. So here's an example also of what the hypertension table kind of looks like in your I-9 code. And the biggest change to ICD-10 for hypertension is the removal of that benign and malignant. So in I-10 you will not need, that will not even come into play for coding hypertension. And there's only one code for hypertension, which is I-10. So who said we'd not be able to memorize an ICD-10 code? You now just have I-10 is hypertension. Wonder how they got that. And then in ICD-10 also there is no hypertension table, so that's one thing that's different. Hypertension with heart disease, it's coded to category 402. In ICD-9-CM there must be a causal relationship documented in order to code from this category. So an example would be CHF due to hypertension. So if you had both these conditions, CHF and hypertension, or another heart disease and hypertension documented in the medical record, you would need to see if the physician links those two, like a due to show that there's a relationship. If there is nothing that links those two diagnoses together, then the coder would just code them separately and would not code from category 402. In ICD-10, the guidelines are still the same. The only difference is in CHF, the congestive is considered a non-essential modifier. Hypertensive kidney disease. Now, ICD-9 does assume a cause and effect relationship. So here, if hypertension and chronic kidney disease are documented in the chart and they're not linked, that's okay, because you can assume that cause and effect relationship. So you're automatically going to go to category 403. And the coder would also code a diagnosis for the chronic kidney disease, and with that fifth digit specifying the stage. Is it stage 1 through 4, or is it stage 5 or end stage renal disease?